name is Amber, and this is a video about my backstory and where I come from as far as the infertility side of things go. I've been trying to conceive for about 6 years now and have been unsuccessful. My husband and I have, been through different stages where, when we were first told that it was going to be difficult for us to have kids, if ever, we really started trying to track everything, and then, we've been through the just don't try and you'll get pregnant stage, and so there's been a lot of different journeys throughout the 6 years together that I will share a little bit of each of those with you guys. So first things first, I was diagnosed with endometriosis 8 years ago. I've always struggled with, painful periods and painful sex since about the age of 20. And I knew something wasn't right. I went to the hospital one time because I was in a lot of pain. They found a cyst on my ovaries that was pretty large. I don't remember those exact measurements at that time. So then I went to my OB and said, hey, they found a cyst on my ovary. They wanted me to check back with you to make sure, this was followed up on. He said, oh yeah, the cyst should bust and go away. It shouldn't cause you any pain. Mind you, he was a man, so obviously he doesn't know what pain like this feels like. Said, no, it should pop and go away. There shouldn't be any pain that you're dealing with. And, the same story I'm sure some of you have heard. So, I left, and for 3 years I dealt with really bad pain, ignoring it to the best of my ability until it was the 4th of July one year, and we were at a friend's house. We were, just enjoying our time. I was in the kitchen actually helping put together something, and I got this pain out of nowhere that literally stopped me in my tracks, and I couldn't move. I was hurting so bad. And on the way to the hospital, I can remember I was driving and I had to tell my now husband, boyfriend at the time, to give me a bag because I was going to throw up. I was in that much pain. So we get to the hospital and they, check my urine and tell me that I have a UTI. So of course I take the medication for that, and it was only a few days later I was back in the hospital because I was still in so much pain that it was excruciating. And that's when they found multiple cysts on all of my ovaries, and the original cyst had grown to I want to say it was 6.5 centimeters or millimeters in size, and which was larger than my ovary at this point. So that's why it was causing me so much pain, because it was twisting and causing my ovaries to start to twist. So at that point I went back to the OB that had originally told me, go home, basically everything will be fine, the cyst should burst. And at that time he scheduled me for my first laparoscopy surgery and got me in and did the surgery, diagnosed me at that time with endometriosis. And he did such a horrible job. After the surgery, my stomach was so bruised. It was just a messy job, I guess you could say. I just felt first of all, the only reason I let him do my surgery was because he was my known doctor at the time, and I needed the surgery done ASAP. And if it had not been for that, I wouldn't have even let him touch me again, because the fact that he sent me home telling me that everything would be okay, and ultimately I could have lost my ovaries because of his actions and him not actually doing his part in trying to make sure that, he sent me for another ultrasound in a month or so to see if the cyst actually was going away or if they were continuing to grow. So anyway, after that, I was seen by another OBGYN. I scheduled an appointment with a woman OBG, and she literally, it was within 8 months, I want to say, I had to be rescheduled for another surgery because there were more cysts on both ovaries and they needed to be removed. And at that surgery, she literally went in and just drained the cyst, which was a pointless surgery because just draining the cyst, I found out later, does nothing for them. They're just going to come back, with a quickness. When you have endometriosis, draining the cyst really doesn't do any benefit for you long term. So after that surgery, it was literally less than 2 months, I want to say, I was back at the doctor with lots of pain again. And what do you know? Here the cysts were. And at that point, she said, well, honestly, I'm not a specialist in this type of thing. I haven't dealt with endometriosis very much. So I'm going to send you to a specialist who has dealt with endometriosis and who could probably help you more than I can. And my immediate thoughts were, well, why didn't you do this in the first place, woman? You just made me pay out of pocket for surgery that was, basically pointless because here I am less than 2 months later coming back going through the same thing. Anyway, so I'm thankful for the doctor that she referred me to. It was at a fertility clinic, and because it was the endometriosis that I was being treated for, I was not paying out of pocket. I was able to be seen by this doctor under my insurance because I know most insurance does not cover fertility treatments. And I didn't receive fertility treatments, but he did work in a fertility clinic, and he did specialize in endometriosis. He had seen it a lot, and he actually explained the whole process of how he was going to go in and remove the cyst and try to get the actual root of the cyst off of my ovaries so that it would prevent it from growing back rapidly. And then talked to me about some preventative measures that I could do to, after the surgery to prevent it from coming back so quickly and things like that. But that's mostly birth control, and I've never been successful with taking birth control, and I don't like to take birth control because that's opposite to me in my mind. That's opposite of what I'm trying to do. I want to have a child. So that just doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, once he finished the surgery and I did the follow-up appointment, that was when I knew more about what I was actually dealing with, and he diagnosed me with stage 4 endometriosis. He said it was some of the worst endometriosis he has ever seen in his career, and so it, that just let me know that what I'm dealing with is a pretty severe case of endometriosis, and it's something that I'm going to deal with probably for the rest of my life, even if I have a full hysterectomy, because it's on that, there's different stages. You can look that up if you have endometriosis and you're not aware of this information. I just encourage you to research, because I didn't know any of this either until the third doctor that I saw. And I know what it's like to be made to feel like, you're exaggerating or like you're not in pain when you clearly are in pain. And I know what it feels like to be treated as if you are just making stuff up in a way. And I also know what it feels like to be in a lot of pain and to deal with this on a day-to-day basis. And so what I encourage you to do if you are struggling with endometriosis, if you're struggling with symptoms of endometriosis, is to please research in your area and find you a doctor who specializes in endometriosis treatments, who actually knows what they are dealing with and what they're looking for, and can give you guidance on how to help your symptoms and be a little better as far as pain and dealing with that on a day-to-day basis with your life. So after that surgery with that doctor, I turned 26 and was taken off of my parents' insurance. So unfortunately, I was not able to see a doctor again for, I just recently, a few months ago, was able to get back in to see a doctor. So for 3 years, I went with not seeing a doctor. And I can tell you, for those first 2 years, my pain was very minimal. It wasn't anywhere near as bad as I had dealt with previously for the past 10 years prior to this. And that first year, I had forgotten what it felt like to live with no pain. Like, it was amazing. But then the second year, I started feeling it a little bit more. And then, of course, halfway through about the second year, it really started getting worse and worse. And then recently, a few months ago, whenever I went back to a doctor, they found 3 millimeter cysts on both ovaries, which are not too large. It's still pretty close to, it's getting close to the size of my ovaries on each one. So it's definitely not something to play around with, but I can definitely say that I think that finding that knowledgeable doctor and having him do that last surgery that I had was very beneficial. And now I am scheduled to see another specialist. I've moved to a different state, so I can't go back to that same doctor. But I've found another specialist in my area that I'm going to go see, and they will let me know what steps we're going to take from here. So, of course, I will keep you guys updated, and we will see what happens. So y'all can look for more updates on my channel, and I'm going to continue updates all the way through this infertility process. So if you guys have lasted this long, thank you for watching. Thank you for following this journey with me. If you have not liked and subscribed to my channel, please do so that way you can keep up with our journey as we go through this whole entire process, because from here on, we are really hitting the ground running with the fertility specialists and trying to conceive our first little one. So again, thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.